worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. So Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
It's Sunday. You know what that means. It's a new episode of the It's Canon podcast, the only podcast where the hosts cry more than the actors and viewers of Sex and the City. I'm Boris, and as always, I'm joined by Phil.
Hello, everyone out there. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Well, it's going to be a super packed show. Today, we're going to be talking about NFTs and blockchain. What the hell is going on? What are they? Why should you care? Do you care? Well, we'll let you know, and hopefully you can make a decision. We're going to be talking about video game news. We're going to be talking about Bethesda and the exclusivity with Microsoft. We're going to be talking about Gamestop because it's been a hell of a week there. In terms of streaming, we have a lot to cover. We're going to be talking about WWE Network and Peacock. We're going to be talking about the new NHL deal. We're going to be talking about Netflix and password sharing. We're going to be talking about Peacock losing money and the ever-growing battle of HBO Max versus Disney Plus. And then, if we have time, we're going to be talking about other random tech news.
Ooh, tech-heavy episode.
Yeah,
tech
very
and geek.
tech-heavy episode. Yep, very, 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 very tech-heavy episode. So yeah.
That's a fun thing. I like that. I like the tech stuff. I can't lie. I like it.
Same here.
Yeah. It's a fun time right now. It seems like companies are catching up to demand, or demand is diminishing a little bit. So creativity is back in the marketplace instead of just flat out just trying to slam products onto the market to meet demand. So I always find that that's a good spot to be in.
Yeah, I'm finding that it's actual innovation happening right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's feedback from everybody being at home and using products, but I was using a wired mouse, and it's really good. It's a Steel Series, whatever. And it's got the RGB and everything like that. But today I decided to go out and get a fast gaming mouse that's wireless and just bare bones. Because the one that I was using, the Steel Series, God bless them, they're a great company. I really like their products. But I just found the mouse was a little bit too wide for my hands. And that's one of the big drawbacks when you're shopping on Amazon and watching like YouTube reviews. You don't really get to customize the feel, or, you know, God forbid, you know, I went up to the computer store and I put my gloved hand on a mouse, a display mouse, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go like wash like 4 layers of skin off after this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this fits my hand. This is a good mouse for me. And I bought it, and now I've got mouse hell until after this show when I get to tweak it. But yeah, tech stuff's fun.
Yeah, it's always fun. Yeah, I'm a fan of basic mice as well. Like, I don't need anything fancy. I don't really game on my computer, so, you know, I just need to click, go forward and back, and even those buttons I don't give a crap about. So I have like bare bones minimum mouse as well, and I like them a little smaller just so that it can fit in my hand. And yes, we are still talking about mice.
Yeah, apparently there's like clutch grip and hump grip and all these different things when I was researching, and I'm like, what the fuck? I just want it. You know, I do have a Logitech mouse that's like, you know, one of the ones that's contoured to your hand, and it's nice and everything, but I just want something light and fast.
Yep.
Because the problem that when you're in 4K on all your screens and everything, mouse speed and DPI become a big deal. Like, I understand what people in Photoshop and everything complain about now. I never did. I was like, a fucking mouse is a mouse. Like, And now I'm
Oh.
like, oh, I gotta go get the DPIs.
Yep. When it comes to like making fine edits, you gotta make sure that like your mouse
Yeah.
is right on point, or else you're fucked, and you're gonna
Yep.
be hitting Control Z all the time.
Yeah, and it's really bad with presentations and stuff when you do share screens. You're looking like an idiot with the mouse, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, there's too much peer pressure on this. I'm in
Yeah.
IT. I gotta
See,
be
it's
good
funny
at this,
because
damn
like
it.
I've always worked remote from my teams. Even when I was at BlackBerry, I always worked remote from where the core of my team was. So I've been doing kind of like remote work, WebEx, whatever, Skype meetings, and now that's turned into Zoom and Teams as the preferences. So like I'm used to this, but it's kind of funny, kind of seeing how people have adapted and now care about your remote workers, and people realize that it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah, and I would imagine for the tech companies, that's just an absolutely massive um, feedback loop that they're now on. Because I think the average consumer, I think there's stuff, the more techy you get, the more you accept the failings of certain products. Because you just go, oh, that's a limitation, or I understand that. And well, I've tried something else and it did the same thing. So this is how it is. But I think regular consumers go out, they use it, and then they demand better.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes the tech people will too. I'm not trying to say we don't, but I think I'm guilty of settling. Put it that way. I'm guilty of, oh, well, shit, that's the way it is.
Yep.
Let's move forward.
Tech people are the worst at that sometimes. Change is not something the tech people do well with, funny or not. Funny enough as that sounds, I should say.
Exactly.
But yeah, we have a freaking busy week, and it's been a busy week. Let's see, what have I done this week? I've been working tons. Been busy with the wrestling show, so that's been a lot of fun. Sometimes when I can share stories between shows, I know that it's going to be a good week because that's like 10 minutes less prep than what I normally do. So that's a win for me. But yeah, it's like, I find that prepping for this show is just taking longer and longer, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, it's par for course.
There's a lot that we cover, right? It's pretty broad. And I know your wrestling stuff is too. Like I know that wrestling is its own deep well, and it's a passion of yours, so that's good. And I know this is a passion thing too, but we do cover a lot, from tech to pop culture to geekdom to all that stuff. It is overwhelming. Like this week, I know for shows, I really went in hard on Pacific Rim: The Black.
Yeah.
Like all 7 episodes one night, which I mentioned with Brad and you. So that was surprisingly, it does a much better job of explaining the universe of Pacific Rim than Pacific Rim the movie does.
Yeah.
It builds exponentially on the stuff that's presented there, and it gives you the complications of the tech and whatnot, and the dilemmas, which I thought was just fabulous.
Yeah.
And it's still anime, right? It's still kind of animated fun.
But it's kind honestly, of proof of what we've talked about many times in terms of world building, right? I seem that we as consumers, especially to these types of sci-fi shows, we really want to be immersed in the world, and it's all about world building. So, it's a lot easier to get a built world in, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes as opposed to 2-hour movie. So, I can see that why this format is becoming a lot more popular. And this is something that we talked about on our WandaVision review with Brad in regards to kind of like why WandaVision especially just worked in the format that it is with those characters that they were, because we were able to really get deep in them. And while it was a risk for Disney to give the first show to Wanda and Vision, 2 characters who are completely side characters in the movies, right? To give them the opportunity to really flourish and grow. And I know a lot of people are now like really high on their characters and their characterization and don't want to know what's next, right? So I think it was just brilliant on Disney's part, and it's because you can get immersed, you can explain things, you can really get into the world and see things from the creator's point of view.
Yeah, and Disney didn't miss a beat. Remember how I was saying about Friday? Well, I logged into Disney Plus on Friday, and here's a retrospective interview and how they made it of WandaVision called Assembled,
Yep.
which was just absolute gold.
It was awesome.
And really explained. Yeah, and like next week we go into Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that was supposed to be before WandaVision. Everything was supposed to kick off with Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then they did this with WandaVision, so you could see the pre-COVID days and the shooting when they had the live studio audience and whatnot. So it's interesting to see how it's ordering out and how that's going to impact on Disney's movie layout and everything going forward, because obviously plans have changed. And I think as much as geeks don't like change, Disney likes it even less. So they're rolling with these punches and making a lot of creative and good choices, like you say, with WandaVision.
Yeah, that Assembled show, I watched it last night, like at 1 in the morning, and I was just enthralled with it. It was so freaking good. It's just an hour long, and it goes through the entire series, kind of, their motivations, what it's really about, how they had to kind of think like a sitcom for especially the first few episodes, right? And, I kind of appreciate it even more because they were taking into consideration things that we as the viewer would never even notice, care about, or whatever, to the point where the lighting was 50s inspired. Like the lighting on the set, the chairs for the live studio audience, everyone in the crew was dressed like they were in the 50s and 60s. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it was really a period piece, and they even consulted with Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Right. So I know Brad was talking about the cinematography of it all, and apparently, like, Dick Van Dyke was just like, "This is how you shoot this shit." He got in there and got down and dirty with it, which is why that set was so Dick Van Dyke, and they paid him homage in WandaVision, the later episodes, to show where Wanda was getting her fascination for that genre.
Yep. And I think,
but yeah.
I think Elizabeth Olsen said it best when she said it was a real love letter to American television, right? Mm-hmm. American television is seen everywhere in the world. Everyone watches American TV. It's something that just gets consumed because it has the most budget, it has the most appearance, it has the most value. Like, it's just something that gets distributed around the world. Regardless of where you are, a lot of American TV shows, especially back in that era, right? Like, it was... Yep. You may not have gotten them in the 50s or 60s, you may have gotten them in the 70s or 80s, but they were distributed everywhere in the world. So, paying a tribute, and WandaVision, especially the earlier episodes, it being a love letter to American TV, it was really cool. It was, if you haven't...
We got that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, we all walked away from that going, like, this is just absolutely... them honoring the tradition of TV.
Yeah. Right.
And taking it to new places, as Brad and we discussed with the cinematography, the shots, the widescreen, the letterbox, you know what I mean? Like they really ran the gambit of that reproduction and ushering between the genres as well through the styles that they shot and whatnot. So good on Disney. I gotta say, like, I'm really excited because this week we get Falcon Winter Soldier starts up, and I think I'm really looking forward to all things Star Wars that's in the pipe too.
Yeah,
because this is really showing their commitment as a company to all of these properties.
Exactly,
right?
It's huge. It's huge in the sense that you see, where in the pecking order Disney Plus is, and it's number one right now.
Yeah, like the quality of those shows. Now, I will say with like Pacific Rim: The Black, sometimes it's not good enough to just make an animated series like you were talking about, where it's like the world building, right? Because we both walked away from the Transformers one. And I gotta say, like, the second bit of the Transformers one came out, I watched half of the first episode, and I wasn't arsed to keep on going. I was just like, this is just crap. This is not good Transformers storytelling. Whereas Pacific Rim just reeled me right in. So it really does come down to the quality of that story and how daring those people are to work with what's there and expand upon it. Like, I don't know how canonized it all is. I'm not really familiar with that universe beyond what I've seen on the movies and now on the show. but they're growing it in new and better ways, in my opinion. I'm excited to see a second, third, fourth, fifth. I want to see a lot of this.
Yep. Yep. And speaking of canon and what's canon, what's not canon, this week the Snyder Cut comes out.
Yes.
We're gonna watch it. We're gonna talk about it, I'm sure. Early impressions seem to be on the positive side, so that's kind of refreshing to see. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like, I still have zero expectations. I still think it's a bad precedence to set, but here we are. It's gonna happen. There's even credible rumor and innuendo coming out from the movie that Snyder is now considering Justice League 2 and 3. There's also talk of him replacing Patty Jenkins as the director for Wonder Woman 3. So, very interesting stuff happening right now with the DCEU. And again, all rumors, but the people talking about this have gotten a lot of things right. So this isn't me just spitballing bullshit I read. These are credible people talking about this. So again, until anything's confirmed, it's just going to stay on the rumor pile on the show. But it's at least, it's giving hope to the DCEU, which is something that was just lacking. DC tried to just throw everything at the wall. They tried to build the world that the MCU had in just a few movies, and that wasn't really possible. And at the end of the day, the quality of the movies just weren't there, right? Like, it wasn't what audiences weren't able to connect to them in a way that they were able to connect to the MCU movies.
Yeah. Like I was saying before, when Justice League was out on DVD or 4K or whatever, I was watching it and I was just like, I'm feeling this. I can get behind it. Then MCU drops like Infinity War. I was just like, oh, fuck DC. Like, from a casual viewer standpoint, it was night and day. So it'd be good. It's good for competition. Like, those are iconic superheroes. There's no way that anyone can say that they haven't grown up knowing about Flash or Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman. These are such iconic pieces of our childhood, regardless if you're a DC or MCU fan. And I want DC to succeed. I want to see DC put a viable product against Disney and make Disney question some of the things that they might do and vice versa. I think that that's the best spot for all consumers and all comic fans and all movie fans, right?
If there's anything that I learned from being a wrestling fan, is that competition is always good. Competition always brings all sides up and the quality up, and the overall product that we get as consumers goes up. So, it's all good. As long as the shit's good.
Yeah, exactly. Now, for the rest of my week, it's the regular stuff. The Snowpiercer, Resident Alien kicked ass again. Snowpiercer, not so much. But I'm going to suggest something for people out there who might not have watched something, because I've been getting into it on my Disney Plus and Star, and that is The Orville. I saw this coming on Fox, and it just was timed at a time that I wasn't able to watch it. And then I had a friend bugging me about it, saying how great it is, which made me want to stay away from it more just because of who he was. My friend was being a total douche about TV and whatnot, so because I would make suggestions, and he would not watch them, clearly. So I was just like in this stubborn mode. And I finally let myself watch a few episodes, and goddamn, Seth MacFarlane does Star Trek better than Star Trek sometimes.
Sometimes.
Like, honestly, I'm like, this show has legs for a comedy that is supposed to be a little bit like absurd Family Guy-ish, right? It's just like, I'm 2 or 3 episodes in, and I'm sitting here going, this is better sci-fi than some sci-fi that's out there. Like, it actually is making a convincing enough world for me to be able to buy into it. So good on them. I gotta say, I'm kind of shocked, because it is better than I expected. I thought it would be a way more stupid slapsticky type thing, but hey, there's some good sci-fi in there, I gotta say. But I'm accepting a Resident Alien as good sci-fi too. So.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that. It's still on my next up list. And then something else always comes up, because my friend, she always tells me, hey, why don't you try this show? I'm like, okay, might as well. Yeah, so this week it was New Amsterdam. I've been watching a lot of that show. It's actually
Saw
really
that.
fucking good. It's really, really good.
It keeps on
And
coming up
it's
on my
not,
Netflix.
It's not just Boris good. It's good.
Okay. I might give it a try because it's becoming on my suggested list a little more and more from Netflix. So maybe it's time that I bite the bullet and take a look at it because I did watch a preview for it and I was like, it could be all right.
Yeah,
So,
it's fun. It's not like it isn't too. Look, it's a drama. You're gonna get drama stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah.
like to the levels of Grey's Anatomy. It's not to the levels of Riverdale. And bullshit. I love how that's our go-to. Like shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I started watching the one last night and then I turned it off. I just didn't feel like getting into this heavy.
The one or
dating.
the 100?
No, the one. It's this new dating thing.
That one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's trending, right? So I started looking at it and it was playing a little too close to the trailer for me. And I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, maybe I'll give this a try later on. I'll just I'll watch a little bit of the first episode and see if I get in a mood to watch it. Cause it looks like there might be something interesting there. Dark or, what's the one? Black Mirror or whatever. There might be something that's a little bit twisted with this show, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's something going on there.
Right.
In the cockles or the sub cockles of that show.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
I think
that's a catch up, isn't it? Like, yeah, we both actually got stuff covered there.
Yeah. Pretty good. All right. So let's get to the stuff because there's a lot to talk about this week. And I think we've been spending way too much time at home. People have way too much time. People have, I don't know, it's every week I feel like in the tech world there's something, a new buzzword. And the buzzword of this week was NFT. What is
I'm going to
NFT?
say something.
Go ahead.
I specifically avoided this topic, researching it and everything, just to be surprised. I think I caught a little bit of a whiff of it on the edge. And I was just like, I don't want to form an opinion yet because I want Boris to tell me what it is because I saw your tweets. And I'm like, okay, this is a challenge now. I got to stay away from the internet for a couple days.
Right. And it's not hard to explain, but there's a lot of subtext and context that we have to think about in terms of the bigger picture. And I really wish Tyler was here because he would really be able to add a lot to the conversation because this is what he writes about. He writes about cryptocurrencies and stuff as one of his side gigs. So this is like right up his alley.
I was thinking if Tyler was here, I could tell you right now, he would be defending it and I would be probably poo-pooing on it. But I don't know what it is, but I think it's going to make old angry Phil angry.
Look, my brother and I were talking about this over text yesterday, and he's kind of like, depending on what his reaction is, I know how you're going to react because you guys are old.
I'm a little bit worried. I think it has something to do with memes.
It could.
That's all I know.
It could. All right, so
something got sold for some ridiculous price.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying. What isn't ridiculous priced right now? Like people, for a world that is on the brink of economical collapse, we are spending way too much money on way too much bullshit.
I agree.
Like it's crazy. All right.
I know, and you can't keep a PS5 in stock. You can't get Xbox Series X in stock. But yet, for some reason, on the news, people are lining up for food. I don't get it. I'm not trying to say it's the same, but it just throws this impression.
Like, look, I know that, but I think that goes to show you kind of like, you're either doing okay or you're fucking hurting right now, right? There's no in the middle right now. That's the unfortunate thing. We're not trying to make light of I just situation. It's just
I don't think of myself as making out like a bandit during all this, but I am I'm lucky that my livelihood and my job are able to pivot, and that's a great place to be. And I know a lot of people lost their jobs, and I don't mean to make light of that. And I know a lot of people, especially in service industries and whatnot, lost out, but it just seems like there's a huge divide between the haves and the have-nots now.
Yeah, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and that's like, it's just crazy, but it's just, but I look at the trends, and that's what I'm talking about more. But people, like, we're spending millions of dollars on fucking digital art right now. And that's what an NFT really is going for. So, what is an NFT? What does it stand for? NFT stands for non-fungible token.
What the hell's a fungible?
All right.
Is that something you eat? Like, is there a candy cake out there called fungible?
It sounds like something you get it sounds like something you get when you're with the wrong person.
Yeah, I got the fungible.
You see, Tyler would like stop us right now, and he'd say, "Come on, guys."
I know. He would actually define fungible. He would be like, like, I've never heard of this word. I kept on reading it, and I'm like, I don't know what it is.
So I knew you were going to ask that. You see, you should see my notes for this episode. All right, so non-fungible more or less means that it's unique and can't be replaced with something else. For example, Bitcoin, fungible. You trade one Bitcoin for another Bitcoin. You'll have the exact same thing. A one-of-a-kind trading card, however, is non-fungible because if you traded it for a different card, you're going to have something completely different on the other side.
Okay.
Does that make sense so far?
Does.
So let's, for example,
it's rare.
Let's pretend that I have the Pokemon Squirtle card, and I give you that card, and in return you give me an Ed Belfour card. So that
all
makes
right, good old Eddie. Gonna get drunk.
It's one of a kind, so it's non-fungible. If I were to give you a Squirtle card and you give me the exact same Squirtle card, that makes it non-fungible. So
no, hang on, they're fungible and non-fungible.
Yeah.
So what's what? If I feel like you just called both transactions non-fungible.
No, I flat out said it's fungible. So non-fungible means it's unique, can't be replaced.
Right.
Fungible means it can be replaced.
Like for like.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So that's NFTs.
That's the definition.
At a very high level.
I just didn't know like fungible was a word. Did someone just make this up, or is it something that's been around?
It's a word.
Okay.
It's a word.
All right, good.
So at a high level, NFTs are part of the Ethereum blockchain. Now, what is a blockchain? Now we have to dig a little more. So in the most simple of terms, a blockchain can be described as a data structure that holds transactional records while ensuring security. So basically, it's a unique ledger of data. So in order to write in this ledger, it takes a lot of computer work. It takes a computer to solve mathematical equations in order for you to write into this ledger.
So a lot of Bitcoin uses this, right? Like blockchain stuff.
Yep. That's where Bitcoin mining comes into work, because people have computers and computers just for this, just so that it can solve these math problems. And the reason why it is these math problems is because that's how it knows that it's an authentic transaction taking place.
Interesting. So that's why GPUs are used over regular CPUs, because GPUs are better at math.
Correcto.
Because graphics are math.
Correcto.
So that's making a lot of things in my world make sense. Yep. Interesting. I've heard the word blockchain before. I knew it was related to crypto and Doge and all that. The money
NFTs
stuff.
Are part of the Ethereum cryptocurrency. So it's like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, but it's blockchain, and it supports NFTs, which store extra information that makes them work differently from, say, in ETH coin. So other cryptocurrencies can implement their own NFTs. There already are. So this is already blowing up. Like cryptocurrency, there's so many. There's Bitcoin, there's Dogecoin, there's Ethereum. There's so many different types of cryptocurrency. It's absolutely insane, and everything is based off of the possibility of people buying these up, mining for it, making it more valuable, and then you can be worth what a Bitcoin is, which is, what, 45, 50K for one Bitcoin?
45, 50K, yeah. And that's because there's only so much Bitcoin out there.
Yep.
Correct? There's a finite amount of Bitcoin, and that's what drives the economic price.
Yes, because
if someone's sitting on Bitcoin, then obviously guys like Elon Musk want you to get out of sitting on it, because the more the currency gets into the world, the more you can speculate on it and actually affect the price.
Bingo.
And if you're sitting on it, then your money goes up.
In order to create Bitcoin, it takes mining. And mining, you're going to find arguments on both sides of the fence. But essentially, think of this. In order to solve mathematical formulas, it takes about 10 minutes to solve one. And that's just like for a part of writing into the ledger. But for the entire thing, it can take hours and hours and hours and days. We're talking the equivalent of small countries' worth of electricity for a Bitcoin.
Yeah, because these cards give off a lot of heat and take up a lot of power.
Yep.
And oftentimes, what happens is on a Bitcoin farm, they're taking the GPUs and placing them pretty much outside of a computer in an air-cooled situation or a liquid-cooled situation where the cards are just sitting raw on shelves in like PCI component holders and chained together in order to maximize the processing power. And there's all kinds of fake rumors that the PS5 can do Bitcoin mining and stuff like this when it really can't.
Well,
it's not able to do it like they do with these other 3080s.
A lot of new malware that can go into your computer essentially connects your computer to a farm of computers in order to do this computation. So if you ever wonder why your computer is running incredibly slow, it's because you might have malware connected to a farm that is mining for Bitcoin. This is the new thing.
Ha! Well, my laptop doesn't have a GPU, so take that. Ha!
Yep. All right. So, going back to NFTs, are we on the same page for now? NFTs are part of cryptocurrency. They're part of the blockchain. It's non-fungible, which means that it's unique and one of a kind.
It's unique. It's like Elmo. It's unique.
Yep. Now, what is interesting about NFTs is that if you realize when I talked about blockchain, I mentioned that it's essentially a ledger. So, what information is added to this ledger? It is the specific owner of something. Now, what can you own? NFTs can really be anything digital. Drawings, music, your brain downloaded and turned into an AI. It can be anything.
Okay, like memes.
That's exactly it. So this is where you're probably seeing some of these things about memes and the Nyan Cat and things like that. Because a lot of the NFTs right now is using the tech to sell digital art. So people have actually been selling memes and tweets into the marketplace. So where are we at right now? So, there's GIFs that people have created that people have been selling. It's been absolutely freaking insane. So, there's that Beeple video. Earlier in the week, there was a transaction of the Gucci Ghost. You've probably seen that GIF of the Gucci Ghost. It's worth $3,600.
Wasn't there a cat one that sold for a lot of money this week?
Yeah.
Like a ridiculous amount, the meow meow thing.
Yeah, so the Beeple was auctioned off at Christie's and it ended up selling for 69 million, which is 15 million more than Monet's painting, the Nympheus, sold in 2014.
Oh my gosh. Like, are you kidding me? For a
Yep.
meme? The meow meow meme? Meow 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 meow.
Well,
The,
that's
the cat
one of them,
meowing
yep.
thing.
Yep.
My goodness, that's the one that I heard on the news, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. So
Okay.
a lot of people are
This is
jumping on
weird.
this right now.
You know what? I'm not angry about it. I'm not angry about it. Like I thought I might be, but it is legitimately art. It's just it seems like it's overvalued. That's for sure. But
That's the thing,
somebody
right?
with a couple $1 billion, like what, 69 million, so that they can own the kitty cats or whatever. Say, I don't know that it stops proliferating on the internet. I don't know that it becomes someone's copyright claim. But I guess they sit down at the end of the day and put their head on a pillow that's really expensive and go, I own that. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the collector value is on it, but there's got to be something.
It's like anything in the collector market. It is whatever someone will. It's worth whatever someone is willing to buy it for, right? So NFTs are basically digital collectibles. They can represent things like tweets, real estate, real world assets. But right now, it's really in the digital world. Their value proposition is that they are digitally unique. They exist on a blockchain, and while anyone can copy and download the video clips or image files, an NFT has a record saying that it only has one owner. So, to be clear, you can still download the image, you can use the image, you can recreate
repost
the image, you can sell a tweet, but that tweet is still going to exist on Twitter. It's going to be visible to all. But technically, in the digital world, you are the owner of this. So this is where copyright and all that fun stuff go into play, right? DC, for example, yesterday or the day before, they were saying, listen, NFTs are cool, but don't use our likeness. Don't use any of our copyright stuff on this digital art that you're selling with NFTs.
Right. Well, it's their property.
Yep.
Right. So now I fear, my fear is this, that it's going to change the meme world. Whereas you had companies like DC, Marvel, Disney, all these big companies running towards memes and saying there's no such thing as bad press. You know, when Baby Yoda is proliferating all across the internet and they're merging it with songs and they're making it into a meme, Disney takes on, in Lucasfilm, take on the attitude that, hey, this is driving interest, their eyeballs towards our property. The Mandalorian or Star Wars in general or whatever. So their adoption, like, and I think that largely embeds with Lucasfilms had the same type of policy, and it's kind of spread, right? Where they're saying, hey, it's good to be talked about. It's good to get this exposure. Don't fire up the legal department unless somebody's like trying to make money off of us. But if people are having fun and basically promoting our product, I think this starts to infringe upon the idea of letting that world exist.
Yep.
Where they might say, hey, guess what? We don't want this being resold as a non-fungible item.
So there are tons of questions about how NFTs might fit into existing copyright laws. Mike Shinoda, one of the founding musicians behind Linkin Park, told Input Magazine that there's nobody who's serious about NFTs who really humors the idea that what you're selling is the copyright or the master, meaning that the artist retains the copyright even as they sell some form of licensed content to buyers. So while musicians or artists who create NFTs of their own artwork likely have an understanding of their rights, people can also mint NFTs of works they didn't create.
Yeah.
So
and that's what DC are saying. Don't put our shit into your creation. And artists could, because a lot of these memes have a soundtrack.
And now, counterfeiting. So many NFTs represent real-world items, which raises the possibility that the link between a real-world item and the NFT representing can be broken. So this could happen. There is a possibility that, your, whatever meme that has an NFT, it is possible that the NFT connected to that meme gets broken and a second NFT is created.
So a good example of this would be a meme that was really popular early on. The dude on the skateboard on TikTok.
Yep.
Right? And he's got the Fleetwood Mac song going. And he's just chilling, drinking his ocean spray.
Yep.
Right? Now, at what point, let's say that guy makes that into an NFT and says, I'm going to sell this motherfucker, right? And he's just like, hey, guess what? The first guy pony up 100 million gets it. But then Fleetwood Mac says, that's our song. And then Ocean Spray goes, that's our image.
Yep.
That's our product. And now we're breaking that, right? Now we're going into, it's going to be litigated.
Or if
territory.
That guy decides to sell it off to someone for $10 million, then does his magic, creates or breaks the NFT bond and creates a second NFT. You know, because essentially what you're selling is a certificate of authenticity as you, the owner. It's easy for me to take a comic book, and make fake certificates of authenticity. So this is possible with NFTs as well. And then, as you mentioned, there's the whole copyright stuff, but it is possible for you to NFT something that you technically don't own. But, this is where it gets a little muddy. And then you have to think about securities and tax laws. So NFTs might run into securities laws. This seems a little less likely than some of the other regulatory regimes, which way they interact with. If people buy an NFT on the expectation that it will rise in value, they might sue the creator if the NFT instead drops in value. So it's kind of, I think it's similar in there. That's lots of public demand, but the classic securities law and classic sanctions law and classic commodities law will have to be reapplied.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
I'm scared for the world.
So as you can see, it's
it
very
just seems like
slope.
lawyers win.
It seems like a very slippery slope right now, because you mentioned some very good things. Like, what if people take, our show, for example, and let's say Kevin, our theme song creator, says, I own that. I only allow you guys to use it, So it's now the NFT around our episode might be into question because Kevin owns the song. And if Kevin owns a song and Kevin decides to NFT that song, it's really muddy waters at that point. But I think that what really ends up happening is that the episode, it's its own NFT, the song is its own NFT, but there's kind of like no licensing rights just yet, right?
Yeah, it'll all come down to fair use and things like that, right? What's demonstrable in a court and in the world's purview.
Yep.
Man, oh man, that's gonna be messy. I can see it getting really messy when there's a lot of money involved.
Yeah, exactly. And, let's not even talk about the is it this bad for the environment? We plan on having a whole special on cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and whatnot in the somewhat near future, where we're going to talk about all of that. But today I really wanted to talk about NFTs, what they are, and the possibilities that it opens up.
Scared. I know now.
All right, so that is NFTs, and like I said, we kind of just touched the tip of the iceberg with this subject. There's so much more. I just did enough research to get us through today, but we will have a special on cryptocurrency and blockchains. And we're going to talk about environmental impacts, the positives and the negatives, the possibility of it being a positive in the big picture of things. We're going to be talking about, more about mining. We're going to be talking about the value and the valuation. And, even when we talk about NFTs and their valuation, it comes down to perception, right? I can sell you a digital, a selfie, call it digital art, and then, it'll be worth whatever someone is willing to pay. So, it's it's kind of like art and art collecting.
Yeah, I guess it's just the evolution, right? It's where the internet meets possession meets art.
Yep, exactly. All right, so that is NFTs. I think we're going to be talking about Bethesda. Microsoft officially owns them. It's
Yeah,
happened.
that went kind of from zero to nuts this week. I even logged into my Xbox at One S and took a look at Game Pass this week, and I was like, hey, guess what? Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, 20 new games on there this week, which is pretty crazy. And they're, a lot of good games. I know that there's even more that they want to add, which they're probably in the throes of existing contracts or existing contractual obligations or lend outs on other services or promotion on other services. But you know that this is a huge power move by Microsoft, and good for them. Like, good on them. Yeah. Sony's been doing it for years now.
Yeah, this is by far the biggest play in that realm. Outside of Halo, Xbox hasn't really had too many major exclusive titles, right? Now they have a bunch. And Phil Spencer even confirmed that the future of Bethesda games will be exclusive to platforms where Game Pass exists. Essentially means PS5 players will miss out. They had a Bethesda joins Xbox roundtable on March 11th, and Phil Spencer addressed speculation around whether the acquisition will see future Bethesda titles such as Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 becoming Xbox exclusive. And this was the exact quote. If you're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is that this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. That's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building.
Yeah. So, again, Microsoft has been battling a very valiant fight here for this past generation and not having many exclusives. Like you say, Halo. Which comes but once as often as Halley's Comet, and as well Forza, right? So when 343 isn't sitting there wrecking a game, I guess Playground comes in and makes a good racing game that's exclusive to Xbox. But as we all know, Sony's been owning that exclusive market and basically selling consoles to a 2-to-1 ratio over Xbox worldwide, based on their exclusive IP, right? And the deals that they make with their vendors and whatnot, and Santa Monica Studios and all this other stuff. So it's good to see, again, competition's good. I think we all win as customers when we see this marketplace exist.
There's a big caveat to all of this. Games under contractual obligations from before the acquisition, such as Deathloop, will still land on PS5. So there is still hope that you will get Elder Scrolls 6 and other major Bethesda games because they were contractually obligated to do so on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the bottom of all that as time goes on about whether or not Microsoft see any upside in breaking those contracts, or, if they can afford to break them or honor them. And I think they'll probably honor them, but it's clear that maybe not this generation, but next generation, a lot of those titles, and we're not only talking about Bethesda here, we're talking about ZeniMax. The company is owned by Microsoft.
Yep.
So ZeniMax have other studios as well, right? And that all that content is going to be married to Xbox now exclusively. It's in a closed relationship. So going forward, I think that's a great place for Xbox to be. It is interesting that you put that asterisk there that it's going to be available to where Game Pass is, right? Because Game Pass is evolving. And that's a interesting statement, because I can foresee a day. There's a point at which I would have not imagined that Apple TV would be on my Google Chromecast.
Yeah.
And here I am with Apple TV on my Google Chrome TV. right? And it's on my Xbox and it's on my PlayStation. So I can access all of my Apple shit through regular media, whereas before it used to be locked hard on Apple. I can see Microsoft making that same play and just going, hey, here's our service. Whether you're on a PS5 or you're on an Xbox One X or Series X or you're on whatever, there's a possibility with this streaming. The only thing holding Xbox Cloud, like the cloud gaming, back is the fact that they're running it on old Xboxes. Now, this year, they're starting to roll out the back end in their server lounge to be Xbox Series X's, which means that we're going to be able to stream at 4K, hopefully. We're going to be able to stream the Xbox Series X games virtually, just like we do Stadia. And when that happens, and Microsoft are basically doing it on Microsoft Edge, which is a Chrome-based browser, which means, oddly enough, you can now play Stadia on an Xbox Series X because you're firing up Chrome, which is completely compatible with Stadia. So the world is getting to be a very meshy place, or well, if not now, soon. Put it that way. This goes
back to something that we've been talking about for so long. That is the fact that, you know, going back to what we both just said, it's the language being used by Phil Spencer, which I find the most interesting. He doesn't say an Xbox console. He says anywhere Game Pass is available. Now, there's a couple ways that you can look at this. Number one is the way that you just brought up. It's the fact that, you know, you can essentially run Game Pass on a Chrome-based browser. You know, we've been talking about the importance of services a lot more. Now, this is why, you know, I firmly hold and believe that the future of Xbox hardware is being questioned at Microsoft because, you know, Game Pass, whatever you want to call it, is the future for them. They want to essentially sell you a box that is media compatible with the browser that you will be able to play video games on. What does that sound like to you? What does that sound like to you?
Look at it this way, man. You can't get your hands on an Xbox Series X. It's still probably the hardest console to get, right? Like there's not as many of them out there as we'd like to think. And the semiconductor hardware has long been the fall down point on console sales, like on consoles overall, because the hardware costs a lot more than the software. So obviously they take the hit on the hardware, whatever they are, Sony, Microsoft, whoever, and they hope to they will make their money back on the software sales and whatnot. And now you're talking about games as a service and maybe eliminating the hardware, and you might even, worldwide conditions right now might expedite that plan. You might see Microsoft start to already force the issue and just because imagine I'm sitting at home playing my Xbox Series S and I'm able to play an Xbox One S, and I'm able to play an Xbox Series X game over the cloud with that processing, with that experience. It would be like having a Series X without needing to own one and paying Microsoft to do that. That's a very advantageous place for Microsoft to start to contemplate playing in. That's at least how, as far as I see it, right? Like there was a point at which maybe a couple of years ago we would have all called bullshit on this. But now internet speeds are to the point where it's happening. It really is happening. It's proven to be a viable market.
Yep. More so, you know, if you think about the internet speeds and the fact that Stadia, say what you want about Stadia, they've proved that it is possible that this is somewhere that we can go as gamers. Like I was talking about last week, you know, the possibility of this hybrid type system where you have the possibility of streaming and having a physical games. I can see that being kind of like what the next generation is going to introduce, and the generation after that is where it's all on the cloud, and that's that. You know, I still kind of think that we're gonna still see some form of physical hardware for some people, but I think that, you know, they're going to really entice you to go all digital because it's cheaper for everyone.
Think about the transition that we made from buying music CDs to streaming music. as a culture, right? I used to collect thousands of CDs. And now it's just all in the cloud, and I accept it. Video gaming is going there, whether we like it or not. The fact is that this was one of the big kickers for me with Stadia, and I've never really brought this up on the show before. But I had to think about it long and hard, and I had to use examples. But here's the thing. If I buy a game on Steam, I don't fucking own it. Steam is giving me a license to play it, right? Like, I'm paying my $69.99 or whatever the price tag is to basically download a virtual game that's enabled through Steam in order for me to use my processing power on this end to play the game. Google Stadia is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I'm buying a license. It's just running on their hardware and streaming to me. So digital games, like all the points that people like to make about, oh, Google Stadia, you can't, you don't really own the game and all that. Well, you don't if you play on Steam, which is 90% of you.
Yep.
The game might reside on your hard drive, but it's unlocked through the internet. Like,
yep. DRM.
So
DRM laws and DRM rules take over at that point.
So it's just, we're already accepting it. That's all I'm saying is it's already in our everyday life. It's already there. Like the last Bastion is actually having the game disc, throwing it in my PS5 while my internet service is out, and being able to play a funked down version of the game off the disc. Because obviously the updates might not be there. The connectivity needed to play the game with the full experience. Like, it might not even play at all. Yeah, so they've got me on that.
Yeah, so going back to what we're talking about, the language that Phil Spencer uses to me is the most interesting part about all of this. And it's not so much about Bethesda or any company in particular. It's the fact that they are now leaning towards and using terminology and kind of getting us accustomed to Game Pass. Mm-hmm. I hear Game Pass more than I hear Xbox now.
Yep. Well, because it's great service. Like, honestly, I've got the Ultimate. My PC, as I said, I don't have a GPU. So, like, I can download Among Us.
Yeah.
Play that. But as far as, I do have the Ultimate because I do like occasional PC games if I can play them. But it's a great service. It honestly is. I know you were excited. Well, you were a little bit shocked this week about the possibility of getting an Xbox Series X. And you started asking me. I know. And you started asking me, like, so what's up with Game Pass? How much is it? Stuff. Because I'm like, you can't own Xbox Series X or even the last generation, an Xbox One X or One S or whatever. You can't own one of those things and not even think about grabbing Game Pass. Like, even on a 3-month $1 trial, you got it. Once you see it, you're done. You're done. And they know it. They're selling drugs on the corner. Like, Microsoft are sitting there just like, come get your crack games. Like, it's once you try it, you're not going to want to get away from it.
Look, even with PlayStation's streaming service, PS Now, most of their games are available to stream only, but now a lot of the newer games going into that library you can download. And for me, it's one of those things that it makes so much sense. Like, how much money do you spend a year on older video games? Or you can get everything for $13 a month, or even, PlayStation Plus. You get the 1 or 2 games a month. Like, it's worth it. So, all these add-on services are where these companies make money. It's always, it's the theme of what we talk about on the show, where everything is going to become service-based. Now, moving on. It is official, Phil. PlayStation 5 is the fastest-selling console in the U.S. history by dollar sales. But it was the second best-selling hardware platform in February 2021. You know what was first?
Probably Nintendo Switch.
Damn right it was. So the NPD Group released its monthly report covering best-selling consoles, video games, and more for February 2021 in the US, and the Nintendo Switch leads the charge as the best-selling console for the month, but the PS5 is second. However, the PS5 did overtake a record previously held by the Switch when it became the fastest-selling console in the US after the NPD Group tracked total dollar sales. So there you go.
Yeah,
interesting.
Because it costs more. I would
Exactly.
say that the PS5 may be tops if they could meet demand, if they could actually get the product on the shelves. Because I'm still seeing lots of updates on my newsfeed where it's like, oh, Best Buy has a PS5 sold out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it quite literally is a matter of minutes before either the bots get it or people are picking them up. And I'm hoping it's people. I really sincerely do. Yeah, it's if Sony had a full inventory to sell, the pie in the sky inventory, if they had been building these things for the past 8 months, just nonstop out of like gigafactories everywhere, and they could eliminate that choke point, I think they might be number one for a little while.
Yeah.
But Nintendo are always consistent. Like it's everybody I know. If you have kids, you're thinking about getting a Nintendo. I know it's for you, but I know you want to get a Nintendo Switch for the kids because the kids want to play the games, right?
Yep.
But you do too.
Yep. All right.
I don't know how many friends lists I see, and it's the parents playing.
Same. All right. So earlier this week, we on our It's Canon podcast chat on Messenger, we were all freaking out, laughing, and talking about GameStop because the stonks were at it again. So GameStop on Wednesday peaked at $348.50 per share.
I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
Yep.
My comment in the chat is exactly it. Nobody's outraged anymore, which is amazing to me. It's completely fallen off of the radar. That 1 week that it started, man, the MSNBC, everything was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We need the Robin Hood guy on. We need Phil Zuckerberg. We need everybody to just come on and just talk about stonks. And now it's like, don't look here. It's still happening.
But you know what's interesting, Phil? I think that this, for me, was bigger news because as fast as it went up, minutes later, it dropped from $348.50 to $172.
And then it rocketed back up
to $265.
Yeah, it held value that was way higher than I thought it would have. When I saw that cliff go, because it was literally, Tyler was telling us, and he's on a 15-minute-old feed. And I go into the live feed, and I'm like, it's dropping like a frickin' stone, guys. Like, and then Tyler goes to the live feed, and he goes, oh, shit. And then it just bounces right back up. So I don't know what the heck's going on. Even me, I'm wearing the conspiracy hat on this. Because I'm like, did someone just like absolutely tank the market on that? Well, you know, we heard that trading had stopped on it because it was getting so overvalued. And then obviously the price crashes on that. And then what happens at that point? Do a whole bunch of people buy in when they see it's down to like 170? Yeah. They just slam in, and then you see the market just bloop, back
That's
right,
exactly
right back up.
That's exactly what happens.
Crazy.
So it's soaring through hearsay, speculation, and rumors and innuendo. It stops trading because there's too many transactions going on. When it stops trading, it crashes. At that crash, that's the perfect time for people to pick it up. So then it soars again. It's crazy when you think that GameStop at the beginning of the year was worth $17 a share.
I just think of how much money I could have made if I was more mercurial and in my investments, and I sat there and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take $2,000 and I'm going to pick these duty stocks.
Do you know how stupid me and Tyler feel about all this? You remember when we were filming our 12 Days of Christmas, we were talking specifically about GameStop shares.
Yep.
Because that's when they were announcing the new CEO. We were talking about some of the things that this new CEO wanted to implement. And I'm like, you know, this would be a good time to buy shares.
Yep, I know. We were all talking about it. We all kind of looked at it. And you know, even with AMC and stuff, because that's been going strong, apparently. I haven't looked at that stock specifically, but I've heard that it's doing well. And I'm like, I remember I was talking about the fact that I don't think the company is going to survive past January. And then these Hail Mary, like, stonks came in and they're like able to restructure a whole bunch of debt, and now things are looking up for all this stuff because hey, the world's happy, the pandemic might be ending soon because they're getting shots in arms, right? And now we're talking about going back to old life and just getting, you know, huge buckets of popcorn and sitting in moist, damp theaters watching movies again.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
It's crazy. And then you just think about what GameStop is evolving to, what the new CEO, the direction that they want to bring this thing into. And there is a foundation of legitimate speculation there. It's just, it got memed and interfered with. It's just interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens when the dust settles.
No, it's absolutely insane what's happening. Like it's so crazy. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So that is GameStop. I think we're going to start talking about some streaming news. There's a lot of things happening right now in the world of streaming. I think we're going to pick things up with Netflix and the password sharing, and we're going to explain exactly what's going on because it's not as doom and gloom as a lot of people think. The later second half of this week had a lot of people freaking out because everyone seems to be sharing their Netflix accounts, and there was a lot of tweets and articles being written about how this is going to stop, how Netflix is adding kind of a utility and tool to stop people from doing this. So this is exactly what's going on. You know, how many times have you gone to a friend's house and entered your password into a device of theirs and access your Netflix account at this person's house? Or how many times have you, with an ex-lover, given them your password and then instantly regretted it once that relationship goes tits up?
Well, that's when you change your password.
Well, some people forget where their account is, which I personally don't understand this. So what Netflix is implementing is a way of making sure that you are an authorized viewer of a person's account. So when you log on, so let's say we have the It's Canon Netflix account. We don't. We each have our own accounts. But let's just say in this theoretical world, I own the It's Canon podcast Netflix account, and I give you, Phil, and Tyler a login. Let's say Tyler ends up quitting the show, and, you know, we're not talking anymore. Because fuck that guy. And he's still using our Netflix account. He will then, at some point, very random, via this tool, get a warning saying, are you an authorized viewer of this account? And it's basically a Q&A where you say yes. And then a code gets sent to me as the main account holder. And he has to respond to the code through me. So I would text him or something that, yes, this is the code, you know? So it's kind of a verification that your other account users are authorized users.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. I don't really see a problem with that because I'm pretty tight on my Netflix. Like I don't have it slamming around with X's or anything like that. And to be honest, like your financial information potentially is in there somewhere. I know it's all hashed out and whatnot, but I just I've just never seen the fascination with all this account sharing. We're all adults. If you wanna have the accounts and pay the monthlies and make sure that the money goes to the right places, you can do that. If you want to go out and find them on the other places on the internet, find the shows or whatnot, you can do that. Like there's no need to play half in, half out to me, but that's just the cut of my jib. So what can I say?
Exactly.
I think that it's a smart move by Netflix, and I can see Disney and everybody else following behind it. Like they have the profiles, so you can legitimize the different stuff. It used to drive me nuts because I had friends that would borrow my Netflix. Sure, once in a while I'd do it for them because they really needed to watch a show and they're a close friend. Like it really is, they're a close friend. And then like it was before profiles or whatever device they had didn't support profiles. and I'm like logging into my Netflix, and it's all like ballerina stuff and kissy drama and stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I'm calling my friend, and I'm like, I'm changing my Netflix password right now because I don't know what you're watching, but this is some weird crap. And my feed is messed up. I was mad at him for a while because I'm like, everything was the Princess Diaries and crap like that. That's not the way I roll on my Netflix.
Yep. And it's kind of weird. Single guy.
Yeah,
and that pops up.
exactly. Yeah, it's just not content I want. But, I look at my dad's Netflix because he's one of my subscribers or one of my licensees, and all he watches is war movies. Like, it's hilarious to me. I'm like, how did you find this on Netflix? Well, I moved the controller, but he's 82, so.
Love it. All right, so that is Netflix. Let's talk about other streaming services and what's going on, and kind of like how important these deals are, because it's all about content and the content race right now, as we see with Disney and other people. So, the NHL is returning to ESPN. So starting in the 2021-2022 season, the NHL is back on ESPN. This is the first time that the NHL is going to be on ESPN since 2004. It was announced that they signed a 7-year deal earlier this week, and the package includes 25 regular season games on ESPN or ABC, early round playoff series, and 1 conference final series each year, and 4 Stanley Cup final games on ABC. It will also include more than 1,000 games per season streaming on ESPN Plus, Hulu, and other Disney-owned streaming services. This deal also has international rights. So, international rights in Latin America, Caribbean, and parts of Europe are also part of the deal for ESPN's digital platform. So, this is huge in terms of the streaming world. So, ESPN Plus, Hulu, where they're going to be getting a lot more content, and it just goes to show you kind of like what they're negotiating for. A real stepping stone of this deal was the deal that Rogers and the NHL signed up here in Canada, because here in Canada, it's an exclusive deal. Rogers is the exclusive home of the NHL, and this was built so that they can get and monetize that streaming service of theirs. So, Rogers put a lot of money into the NHL, whatever it was called, Open Ice, I think it was called at first or something, and then they rebranded it a couple times. Now it's they have the Sportsnet channels, the Sportsnet Now. So, this is all about streaming games, because you want the out-of-market games. People always want to see kind of their hometown team, their favorite team, and oftentimes it's hard to catch those games. So streaming is the only way that you can do this. So this is why these deals are so important. Now, of note is that in the States, like I mentioned earlier, this is not an exclusive deal. So the NHL is still talking to Comcast/NBC for additional games.
Fair enough. That's good for the NHL. I got to say, it was kind of funny last night when I was messing around with that Xbox Game Pass. I happened to notice that EA made a remake of NHL 94.
Yeah,
I downloaded that, and I was having a blast playing that. And I downloaded the new one, and I was just thinking to myself, well, this sport is legitimately a lot of fun, and it's good to see that it's getting its shot there. I hope the MLS follows suit, and some of these fringe sports in these markets start upping their profile and getting into more eyeballs, more homes. It seems like MLS is signed on with DAZN, which isn't a bad thing. That's a great service too.
Here in Canada.
Yeah, here in Canada. Yeah, I think it's directly with Amazon in the States, or maybe that's.
I think it's ESPN Plus that, because remember MLS used to have their app, whatever it was called.
Yep. Yeah, I recall that. Yeah, and it was weird.
Yeah, but it served its purpose, right? You could watch games from around the league.
It did all right.
All right, so
Mhm.
this is the week that, speaking of Peacock and NBC, this is the week that WWE Network moves its services from WWE-owned app to Peacock. So on March 17th, Peacock WWE Network goes live. Next week is the Fastlane pay-per-view. And the reason why we're bringing this up is because, if you do have a WWE Network in the United States, you will not be automatically transferred over. You have to create a Peacock subscription, and on April 4th, your WWE Network goes dark. Now,
Wow.
yeah, wow. Let's all get angry. Here's the thing about this, and something that a lot of people don't realize. There's a lot of legality around moving someone's account from one owner to another.
Yeah.
There's also
Yeah.
the database. We don't know what information. There's legality and privacy around your payments and stuff like that.
Hey, the terms of service that you signed under WWE and their exclusive network might be completely incompatible with Peacock's.
Yep.
So be sure to read those things as well, because maybe Peacock wants more access, maybe it wants less, maybe it doesn't want the exposure of moving that account. There's all kinds of reasons, and it's not that inconvenient to go and sign up for it.
45 seconds.
Like, honestly, yeah, it's like, here's my name, here's my email, here's possibly another way to get a hold of me. Oh, and here's my payment information if it's going to be chargeable.
Yep. And now, in terms of what is moving over, eventually by the summer, they say by SummerSlam, which is typically mid to late August, the entire 18,000 hours of content's going to be available. But on day one, which is March 18th, sorry, not the 17th, March 18th, you will get access on Peacock to every pay-per-view event in the last calendar year. Episodes of NXT the day after TV broadcast, episodes of Raw and SmackDown 30 days after TV broadcast, recent episodes of Steve Austin's Broken Skull Sessions, as well as WWE Chronicle and WWE Icons, which are fantastic documentaries. You're also going to get select special documentaries, including Undertaker, The Last Ride, and episodes of WWE 24 and WWE Untold, and you're also going to get every past WrestleMania. So, I know a lot of people loved the WWE Network because of the classic. You get to watch old AWA, you get to watch some of the older shows, Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, Latin, etc. Those will eventually be moving their way to Peacock throughout the year, but again, transferring this stuff isn't as easy as people think. There's also a lot of rumor and innuendo that Peacock might be not adding some stuff because it is deemed not suitable for today's day and age. Because, there have been times in the Attitude Era back in 97, 98, 99 where they did blackface and stuff like that, so...
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff doesn't age well, that's for sure.
So, this is only important if you live in the US of A, because here in Canada, to get the WWE Network, you have to go through Rogers. So, this is only important for our American listeners, but again, I wanted to kind of talk about this because, the streaming service stuff is becoming super uber important. It's the future. Like, we're seeing it now. Yeah, there's too many, but here we are, right? And we're seeing what the worth is, because apparently Comcast paid WWE $1 billion for this 5-year deal.
$1 billion?
$1 billion.
Man, oh man. Someone get the sharks with the laser beams on their head. That's crazy. But yeah, well, it seems crazy and it doesn't. It would have been, I guess, a little more. If you would have told me $10 billion, I would have bought that too. I would have been like, hey, yeah, I can see WWE selling that. But $1 billion, hey, better than no billions.
Yep.
It's just crazy. Something's got to fail here. Like, I'm sorry, but the arms race of these streaming services, it has to frickin' de-escalate at some point, because it's too much, man. Too much. If you have like certain types of fucking gas, there's probably a streaming service for you. It's unbelievable how many streaming services there are and how many hooks and and everything that's in it. Like I'm hearing now that HBO Max is talking about the fact that they're going to do a reduced version with ads to get more people onto their platform. And it's just a crazy world with how many options. And we're not even in the States. Here in Canada, as you point out, our stuff is more channeled and a little more direct. But in the States, there's Peacock, there's Hulu, there's Disney Plus, there's all these things competing against one another and even having similar owners in some cases. It's a lot of battling for your monthly fee and a lot of hope that you're going to forget you're paying for it. And
Yep.
I can see, honestly, streaming services, when you put them into totality, cost way more than your old cable subscription used to.
Of course it does. People don't realize. Before, when it was just Hulu and just Netflix, it was worth it. But as these contracts ran out and exclusivity became the name of the game, it's just becoming so much. $5 here, $10 there, $15 there. It all adds up. Off the top of my head, I can probably name 10 unique streaming services in the States. It's crazy.
And then you have the music. It's crazy.
And then having said that, Peacock in 2020 lost $914 million.
Wow, that was a big gamble, and they knew they were probably going to lose money off the top anyway. To go and dedicate yourselves, Disney made no bones about it when they launched Disney Plus. They were like, we are just going to absolutely get clobbered on the financials for an amount of time because we're taking away the vaults. We're doing all these moves that have been traditionally huge support, financial supports for us. And I think they, thought, hey, well, we'll go into the theme parks and all that stuff. Will continue to keep us afloat. Pandemic hits, right? So then they had to accelerate all of that plan. And I think Peacock is doing the same. Their acquisition of WWE might be a little bit ahead of time for maybe something that they were debating, even 24 months ago. And because of the changes in the world, they're like, we strike while the iron's hot. We got to get the money out the door. We're going to spend $1 billion, and we're already losing $900 million. But just think about the capital outlay just to get eyeballs and exclusivity, right?
Well,
just to get that back catalog.
Yeah, the fact that NBC is going to be synonymous with WWE in the sense of they are the exclusive streaming home, it's huge for them, right? WWE is a huge brand. Personally, I can see NBC buying WWE in the future, but we'll wait for that one. But here's the thing. Variety reported that NBC Universal gained $118 million off of Peacock already in 2020. However, last year the company spent $989 million in what is termed eliminations. These are payments from within the company for Peacock to license movies and shows from other divisions. So it's all, just moving money around.
Yeah.
It was also reported that the service hit 33 million signups. Although it is not known how many of these were paid subscribers versus non-paid, because they do have tiers. Now, by comparison, Netflix recently surpassed 200 million accounts, while Disney Plus earlier this week announced that they have hit 100 million subscribers.
Yep, Disney are really killing it, and I think they're ahead of their own projections on that, if I'm not mistaken. I know that when they released the 90 million mark back at just before the end of the year, at that call that they did, I believe that they said that they were ahead of plan on that number. So it's changing their financial outlooks, because I think the original plan was Disney Plus wouldn't really be super profitable for the company for 3 to 4 years, and now we're looking at year 2, it could turn that corner for the company and become a pillar, and which is what it needs to do, right?
And I love the war of words that's starting to happen between AT&T and Disney. So Jason Galore claimed that HBO Max has surpassed Disney Plus in revenue generation, powered by a growing subscriber base, a higher base cost, and Warner Brothers' strategy of bringing all of their 2021 theatrical releases to the streaming platform. So you're starting to really see AT&T / Warner Brothers and Disney go at it. So it's good. You know what? At the end of the day, as bad as it is for content and content intake, it's good because the content that is out there is gonna get better. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge in terms of Warner Brothers or HBO Max has adopted this straight to screen and TV at the same time, or service at the same time. Obviously, Disney are taking a different format with it, with a premiere access and whatnot at a lower buy-in monthly, but a one-time fee for each movie to get that access to it ahead of time or at the same time that it's screening. It's fun to see. I'm not giving them any extra money as long as I can, and we can't even get HBO Max up here. I don't even know what I'm going to do for the Snyder Cut right now. I'm hoping it lands on a friend's Plex or something like that, because like, geez, man, like, it's so crazy out there.
It's coming on
It's
Crave,
just so crazy.
but like not HBO Crave, Crave.
Oh, Crave, really? I've
Crave,
got Crave, but I don't have HBO Crave.
It's not.
So I can watch it. Yeah.
All right, so for our listeners who don't know, you have Crave TV here, but Crave TV has a bunch of channels that you can subscribe to. It has Stars with a Z, not the same stars that Disney has, different Stars with a Z. They also have HBO. They also have some other stuff there. So the base cost of Crave is $10. Then you add another $10 for HBO. Then you add another $5 for Stars with a Z, and it just becomes crazy at the end of the day.
God.
Yep. So you can pay up to $30 for your Crave account if you want everything.
Yeah, I was on the 20, and then they knocked me off the 20. They said, no, we'll take it all away. And they gave me Crave for free. So it's kind of this weird spot. But I was like all excited, and then I go to access my HBO Crave, and it's like none of that's there. I'm like, okay, this free service is now a little bit of a skunk. It's all right. I'm not complaining. It's okay.
It's the
but,
HBO
it was
stuff
a little
that
bit,
really makes
like,
Crave worthwhile, in my opinion. But yeah, Snyder Cut is apparently going to come on Crave.
Good. Well, then, I'm really looking forward to this, because it will be an event. Love it or hate it, I don't know, but it will be an event.
Yep, we're going to for sure be talking about it next week in some shape or form. You know what I'm looking forward to?
What?
Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, yeah. Like Pacific Rim the Black just put me in the hole. Let's get monsters on the screen, like fighting shit. Like,
you're all in the kaiju right now, right?
I'm all up in the kaiju right now. I'm telling you, it is. I just love those big robots and big monsters, man.
Yep, same here. It's a lot of fun. Like, it's just mindless entertainment for me, and that's why I like it.
Oh yeah, check it out, man. It's fun.
So, Phil and listeners, you can send us all your feedback. Please send us feedback, positive, negative. We want to hear from you, and Phil can tell you how.
Yep, I can. Will I? I guess so. That's part of my job here. So you can find us on the internet at www.itscanonpodcast.com. You can track us down on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. Anywhere you find podcasts, you're going to find the It's Canon Podcast. And if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe. And if you're able to, we would really like for you to give us a rate and review. If the platform supports that, it helps us greatly, and we'd like to get the feedback.
Exactly. Thanks so much for that, Phil. What a week. We went through a lot.
Yeah, that was fast paced.
I'm tired. All right, so hopefully we will have Tyler back next week. Hopefully his computer's okay. Hopefully he's okay. But hopefully we can have Tyler back next week. So it'll be a party of 3 rather than this party of 2. We are the It's
Well,
Canon Pod.
we did have Brad on this week. That was a sausage party.
Yes, it was. And then, oh yeah, I guess I should say that this week we do have a midweek episode, and it's just a boring old interview with myself and Jamil Barbar, where we talk about life, millennials, Generation Z, and whatnot. It's a very interesting and different talk, but you know, that's what we do here because we are the It's Canon Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things pop culture, the podcast where we talk about all things movies, TVs, books, comic books, video games, toys, Legos, Muppets, streaming services, wrestling, sports, anything and everything. We're your go-to place for pop culture. And Phil, do you know what the best part of it all is?
It's all in canon.
He's Phil. I'm Boris. It's the It's Canon Podcast. Good night.